She used to sit by the window every evening, watching the road curve out of sight, the one that led away from her life. Every car that passed felt like a maybe. Every silence felt like a promise still waiting to be kept. She wasn't waiting for one person. She was waiting for something. A call. A change. A sign that life would finally meet her halfway. She told herself she was patient, that good things take time. But somewhere deep down, she knew patience had turned into paralysis. She wasn't waiting for life anymore. She was waiting instead of living it. Years passed, like pages she forgot to read. Seasons changed outside that same window. Spring brought the scent of hope, autumn took it away. People came and went, friends married, neighbors moved, even the old stray cat found a new home. But she stayed, still, expectant, faithful to an idea that never returned the favor. Sometimes, at night, she'd whisper to the ceiling, "Maybe tomorrow." And sometimes, tomorrow came. But it looked just like yesterday. She learned how to smile at other people's happiness, how to nod at advice that didn't reach her heart. Just go out more. Don't think so much. Be grateful. As if gratitude could fill the space where longing lived. She began to collect small rituals of waiting, checking her phone before bed, keeping a lamp on just in case, wearing the same perfume she'd worn the day he left, because she wanted the air to remember, even if he didn't. She wasn't naive. She knew time was moving. She just believed maybe, somehow, he'd feel her waiting and find his way back. But time is cruel that way. It doesn't bend for hope. It doesn't care for hearts that still hold open doors. One afternoon, she found an old photograph tucked inside a book. Two people, her and him, smiling like the world would never change. She stared at it for a long time, until she realized she was no Clayson's longer looking at love. She was looking at a version of herself that still believed love was a destination. She put the photo down, and for the first time, really looked around. The house was full of things untouched for years, letters half-written, plants long dead, dreams suspended midair. She had been so busy waiting for her life to start that she hadn't noticed it quietly slipping away. That night, something inside her cracked. Not loudly, just enough for the truth to seep through. No one was coming. Not him. Not the future she'd imagined. Not the life she thought she deserved, without reaching for it herself. It hurt deeply, honestly, the kind of hurt that doesn't ask for sympathy, only space. She wept like someone mourning, not a person, but all the versions of herself that never got to live. And when the tears stopped, she didn't feel empty. She felt awake. The next morning, she opened the window wide. Not to look for someone, but to let the air in fresh, unfamiliar, unpromised. She made coffee, not for two, but for one, and it was enough. She put on her shoes and walked out the door without telling anyone where she was going. For once, the world didn't feel too big. It felt possible. She wandered without destination down streets she'd ignored for years, past people she'd never noticed. Every face carried a story. Every sound reminded her she was still part of something alive. By the river, she stopped. Watched the water move always forward, never back. She thought about how long she'd been standing still, building altars to moments that no longer existed. And for the first time, she didn't pray for someone to find her. She prayed for the courage to find herself. Days turned into weeks, and she began to change quietly. She started reading again, not love stories, but poems about letting go. She began planting new flowers, learning that some things bloom only when you stop watching them. She spoke to strangers, laughed at small things, and allowed silence to mean peace, not absence. And then one evening, as the sun melted behind the trees, she realized something profound. She no longer waited by the window. She no longer kept a lamp on, just in case. The road still curved away from her home, but it no longer led to loss. It led to everywhere she hadn't gone yet. Someone once told her that love always returns. But she learned that sometimes it doesn't, and that's its own kind of mercy. Because what returns after waiting too long isn't love, it's dependency dressed as hope. She began to understand that the people meant to stay don't need to be waited for. They meet you where you are and walk beside you when you move. Years later, someone asked her, "How did you stop waiting?" She smiled, a quiet, knowing smile, the kind that carries both sorrow and peace, and said, I didn't stop waiting. I just changed who I was waiting for. And in that simple truth, the years she had lost didn't feel wasted anymore. They felt like a long, slow journey back to herself. Because she finally understood the love she was waiting for was never on that road. It was in the steps she hadn't yet taken. And as she walked away from the window one last time, the house didn't feel empty. It felt open. She waited for years for someone to save her until she realized she'd been the one worth waiting for all along.